Internet, and welcome to another edition of Ask a Gemologist. Today we are going to discuss a semi-precious gemstone with a lot of appeal, known for its wide range of colors, as well as beautifully structured crystals. It's tourmaline. Let's dive right into its history, science, and folklore, and talk about how tourmaline was first imported to Europe in large volumes by the Dutch East India Trading Company from Ceylon, which is modern-day Sri Lanka. And this happened between 1640 and 1790. So it was really new to Europe, new to the world when they first started importing this gem from Ceylon. And in fact, the word tourmaline is derived from a Sinhali word, the Sri Lankan language, for Tourmaline, meaning mixed gems. So why would they call these stones mixed gems? Well, tourmaline, though one group, comes in a variety of colors and often forms with 2 or 3 of those colors appearing in the same crystal. So this allows cutters to polish a really attractive, like bicolor gemstone that appears to seamlessly transition from one tone into another, and it's really, really cool. This attribute makes it super appealing to use in jewelry, so much so that even the imperial crown jewels of the Russian royal family feature a lot of tourmaline in them. They were only once the purview of kings and queens, but everything did change in 1890 with the publication of George Kunz's Gems and Precious Stones of North America. Side note, the mineralogist Kunz is who kunzite is named after, but that's a totally other family of gemstones. So back to George Kunz's Gems and Precious Stones of North America, which raised awareness and interest of domestic gemstones from the United States, such as tourmaline, which was available then in Maine and California. So you can find it internationally, and you can also find it in the United States. That author, a fellow gemologist, then went on to work for Tiffany and Company in New York, and he shared his enthusiasm for this particular stone with the artisans and craftspeople, and really helped popularize the gem in a broader, more commercial environment. So now we know a little bit about tourmaline's long history and use in jewelry. So let's talk about the science. You know I love this part. The gem has a lot of unique properties, but perhaps the coolest property of this stone, in fact the whole family of stones, is that it's pyroelectric. Now let me explain what that means. It means it's naturally electrically polarized. So as a result of this, the stone itself has a much larger electrical field than any other mineral, basically. And it's just such an incredible, observable phenomenon. Remember those 17th century Dutch East India Company sailors and traders that I mentioned early in the video that introduced the stone to Europe? Well, they noticed something very odd about these gemstones when they were crossing back over to Europe. They noticed that the gems were attracting and then repelling the hot ashes from their pipes that the sailors were smoking, and they were putting them on the table next to their gem haul. And due to this phenomenon, this pyroelectric phenomenon, they started calling tourmaline ashenattacker, or ash attractor, in some kind of butchered Dutch phonetic sounding out of that word. So it's incredible. They didn't know why this happened, but they were observing this phenomenon of pyroelectric field being generated by these rough rocks that they had, just unpolished gemstones, which is, to me, incredibly cool. And that's not even the only notable scientific novelty about this family of gemstones. Did you know also in the 19th century, Polished tourmaline crystals were instrumental to chemists who were performing experiments with the polarization of light, which we really didn't understand at that point, like discovering the infrared spectrum, and such. No big deal, just revolutionizing the understanding of optics in the natural world, complements of tourmaline. So let's talk a little bit about what tourmaline is made of itself, scientifically speaking. The crystals are boron silicate, and they form in pegmatites, which are like these hollow pockets deep in the earth that are associated with igneous or molten rock. It's like a rock soup full of all these different ingredients, and they cool over time and form the crystals. And as the rock cools, there are certain impurities that get trapped inside the tourmaline as it is forming. But as we'll see, these impurities actually are what cause the color in a wide variety of tourmaline crystals. So it's a good thing those little specks are there, or else all the tourmaline would be colorless and just transparent. For instance, it's generally agreed that trace amounts of metals like iron and possibly titanium induce the green and blue colors. Manganese produces reds and pinks and possibly yellows. So here's a very quick overview of the different sort of specific trade names that we use in the business for the different colors of tourmaline. So even though they have different names, I know this can be sort of confusing to lay people. We give an informal name to the different colors so that we can speak about them in the business without it being confusing, and also people find that they have like a cachet or a mystique that they're trying to get out there. So let's start rapid fire. So Rubellite is the name for the intense pink or red tourmaline, although some in the trade argue it really shouldn't be applied to the lighter pink tourmaline. It's really got to be that hot fuchsia pink, deep saturated fuchsia pink. The lighter pink shades are simply just called pink tourmaline. Chrome tourmaline is an intense green. In spite of its name, it's mostly colored by vanadium, and the same element that colors many Brazilian and African emeralds. So it's, again, as we spoke about, it's the trace elements of certain minerals that are actually giving these crystals their color. So it's like the impurities that are actually making them so special, which is kind of a neat metaphor for life. Watermelon tourmaline, which is probably the most well-known you might be familiar with, is half pink and half green in one crystal, and it's the most common color combination, but many others are possible, which are called party-colored tourmaline. Woo! And that is a term for any crystal displaying more than one color. So if it's not pink and green, if it's not watermelon, but it is bicolor, it's called party color. Dravite is the name for brown or yellow tourmaline. Schorl is the name for black tourmaline. Indicolite is the name for blue tourmaline, with tonal variation from a deep inky blue to like a vibrant turquoise sky blue kind of color. But the most valuable, the most desirable color of tourmaline is this intense greenish blue. We call it Pariba, and it's almost like a turquoise color, like a swimming pool. Think of a tropical swimming pool. But the thing about Pariba tourmaline is that it must be from the state of Pariba in Brazil, in northern Brazil. So it's the rarest, it's the most valuable color, and if you have a stone that's a similar color, you really can't call it Pariba unless it comes from this best, most famous mine. In fact, these stones can go up to $40,000 a carat, so they are exceedingly rare and exceedingly valuable. And just to make it a little extra confusing, you can have all these variations of colors and crystals included, which is essentially growing through another unrelated mineral like quartz. So here would be some examples of, you have a quartz crystal, and then inside the quartz crystal is green tourmaline just floating on in there, just growing right through the stone. So the stone tourmaline can occur on its own or included inside of other stones. Here's a big old honker with black tourmaline included in quartz. So yeah, and I have some jewelry as well to show, although I don't have a ton of tourmaline crystals in stock right now because due to COVID and quarantine, I haven't really been able to buy as much inventory at the trade shows as I had hoped. And fortunately, the tourmaline I sold. So at least there's that. So this is an example of watermelon tourmaline used in jewelry. As you can see, it's a pink and dark green color. And these pieces are opaque. So sometimes tourmaline is opaque and sometimes it is translucent. Here's a little bit more of a dainty design. Oh, good thing it's pinned to the neck. In fact, I'm wearing something very similar for my personal collection. But I don't know if you can see that well. This, we have some of the blue tourmaline, pink tourmaline, black tourmaline, all manner of different stones in sort of a dainty little design. And I'm going to go back through my archives and try and find some really great pictures of previous inventory I've had in my shop and kind of see if I can stick it into this narrative somewhere in a cohesive way. But that's a lot to ask of my technical skills, so we will see. Yeah, what else do I have on here? Tourmaline is the state mineral of Maine. It's unbearably diverse and beautiful and incredibly interesting with its unique properties of electrical charge and so forth, and being able to be used to study the early refraction and properties of light. I mean, it's really a beautiful stone that has shaped the world. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ask a Gemologist, and have a great day.